ॐ जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः. So we begin our alternate Gospel of Holy Mother class, alternate Saturday. I mean, the next Saturday we will have the Gita class as usual, conducted by the university. So today we are going to discuss a very important event which is mentioned by Swami Arupananda, where the master Sri Ram Krishna is performing the Shodashi Puja of Holy Mother, which is unprecedented in the history of the world. As we have regularly discussed, that Swami Vivekananda once said that Sri Ram Krishna had come to revive the motherhood of God, and he brought with him as his Sahadharmini Sri Ma Sharda Devi, though she was very young in age. This was sometime in June 1872, and the occasion was Falaharini Kali Puja. Falaharini means one who it is an aspect of Kali that on that particular day, Falaharini means one who destroys the phalas. Phala means prarabdha karmas. The prarabdha karmas are destroyed if on that day, if we particularly worship her in that form, Shodashi. Normally, Shodashi means 16-year-old. So, Mother Kali is worshipped as a 16-year-old girl or woman. In those days, most of the people were married at the age of 16. But according to the biographer of Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi, that is Swami Gambhiranandji, she was 19 years old when this worship took place. The year is more or less the same, 1872, but it was Falahani Kali Puja. So the master performed the Shodashi Puja about a month and a half after my arrival at Dakshineshwar. So she came here in when she was 18 almost. So naturally, a month and a half after my arrival at Dakshineshwar. So she came at Dakshineshwar when I had just commenced my 19th year. That is what the gospel says. Actually, by mistake, it was 16th because Shodashi Puja is normally done when the person who is worshipped, when the divine goddess is invoked, she is 16-year-old, but here she is 19. At about 9 in the night, these are all Holy Mother's reminiscences which she told Arupananda. He says at about 9 at night, you must remember that Sri Ramakrishna also performed this Falahani Kali Puja when he himself was worshipped uh, in Shampukur house. That was much later when he was in 1886, before he shifted to Kashipur. It was, I think, this Falahani Kali Puja day only, 1885, not 86. 86 he shifted to Kashipur and stayed there for about 6 months. But before that, when he was in Shampukur in 1885, he performed this, he made all arrangements for Palaharni Kali Puja, all the items for worship, the puja paraphernalia which normally one uses during such pujas was collected, and he had asked the arrangement to be made, but there was no image of Kali. Either Kali is worshipped in an image or she is worshipped in a photograph, but there was nothing, no arrangement was made. And the puja materials were there. It was Girish who understood the significance of Master's action, Sri Ramakrishna's action, and he seemed to have taken all the flowers which were to be used for worship, and in a very divine high state, Sri Ramakrishna went into Samadhi when he said, where shall we worship? Why do we need an image when the living Kali is here? So he was also worshipped as Shodashi or Kali And in fact, he himself worshipped on the night of Falharni Kali Puja in 1872 Holy Mother, who was about 19 years old at that time. So at about 9 at night, he sent for her, and Hriday had made all the necessary arrangements for worship. Similarly, I told him, and Hriday was also a bit confused because the Falharni Kali Puja was being conducted in the Kali temple. Somebody else was doing that puja, and Sri Krishna, instead of doing puja there, was gathering all the, asking Hriday to collect all the material. So he did not ask, he never asked, knowing fully well Sri Krishna's habits and behavior. So Hriday was perhaps afraid, and he made the necessary arrangements, but he was surprised to know when he was asked. He sent for Hriday, made the necessary arrangements, and he sent for her, sent for Holy Mother to come to the room. The master asked me to be seated. I sat on the stool facing the jar of Ganga water, which was used to keep at the northwestern corner of the room. So there was a stool which he had kept, he knew, a slightly elevated wooden plank. Stool means it's not a very high stool, one has to squat on that stool. So normally the Ganga water was placed on that. So that stool had been brought, and that stool is still there. That whole wooden stool is still there on which Shodashi Puja was conducted. They have preserved it very carefully. And the master sat near the western door and facing eastward. Normally one is supposed to face east or the south. So facing eastward, one does the puja. So all the doors were closed. The articles for worship were on my right. I mean, on the right of Holy Mother, because she was facing Sri Krishna sitting on the stool. And the articles of worship were on her right. That means all the articles of the worship were on the left of Sri Krishna, was facing her. And after having done this, the disciple asked, these were the arrangements which were made on that eventful day, where Sri Krishna invoked the Divine Mother in his own wife, which was unprecedented. So, what happened on that day is described best in Mother's own words. So, disciple asked, how did he worship? I mean, he was also surprised because such a puja has never been done by anybody, leave alone uh, one's own wife. Nobody has worshipped. So, Mother says, I became semi conscious due to spiritual fervor. As you know, there are some mantras are to be invoked in the beginning, where the pran pratishtha and the sankalpa is made. So Sri Ramakrishna must have uttered that. Prana pratishtha means when you worship an image, you invoke the prana in that, and you imagine the deity who is worshipped as a living deity. So instead of Shodashi, Ma Kali's statue, he had kept Holy Mother. So naturally, when you invoke the present using the respective mantras, the Sankalpa mantras and all the other mantras before one starts worship, she became semi-conscious. That's why she says, hence I do not know how exactly the worship was. I don't know the sequence, because the moment he invoked these mantras, perhaps she went into a very high state of samadhi, and she was not aware of anything. All the rituals Sri Ramakrishna which he did, as a after the necessary mantras were chanted before the worship. These are the invocatory mantras which one has to chant before starting any worship in the image. So disciple then asks, when did you become conscious? What did you do when you become conscious? Then mother said, I saluted the master mentally and came away. So she was in such a high mood that she did not even normally, according to the tradition, she would worship, but she saluted the master mentally and just came away because she was in a very high mood, because Ma Kali herself was invoked and she was feeling the presence of Ma Kali within herself. The disciple says it was the night of Falaharni Kali Puja. There must have been many people who would have gathered there, because naturally many people who had come. Did none come to know about the worship? there would have been a lot of people naturally. They would have come to Dakshineshwar temple. It's a very big event. So he said, how come nobody came and the master worshipped you alone? Then mother said, did I not say the doors were all closed? The Kali temple was full of festivities that night, and all were busy with that. And besides, what business they had with the master? Nothing beyond seeing him and saluting. So most of the people of Dakshineshwar, mostly they came to attend the rituals. Basically, man is very ritualistic. They would rather attend the puja than have satsang with somebody, because they feel they have done some merit if they attend these pujas. Whether their mind is on the puja or not, it doesn't matter. It's a psychological thing where unless you have the havan, unless you have a ritual, you feel your worship is incomplete. Normally, it is the bhava or it is the spirit with which you worship is more important than the mantras you chant. That is what Sri Ramakrishna said. But here you will find that most of the people were not interested in who was worshipping, what was the spirit with which he worshipped, what was the significance of Kali Puja. So they just came because they knew to attend such festivals or attend such pujas, one would get some religious merit. That is the main concern of most of the devotees. They just want to attend all the festivities, mainly the festivities which follow the puja, singing, dancing, and prasad. So these are more important than the actual spirit and the actual worship, which perhaps was going on in the Kali temple, the main temple, and but the real worship was going on because Sri Ramakrishna was not present there. He had chosen to worship Holy Mother in the Dakshineshwar in his own room, and he had closed the door, so nobody would have disturbed him. And so Holy Mother says, yes, why would they come? Why would people come here? Because there was nothing, no rituals and other things Thakur did. But they would not have even thought that a worship could take place in a living being. In a living being, they were used to worship in uh, see the worship in the image of Bhavatarini or Mahakali. So how would they know? Then the disciple asked, that means was anyone present, anyone else other than the master and you were present at the time of the worship? Then Holy Mother says, yes, a boy named Dinu from Mukundapur, a distant nephew of the master, used to stay with him. So he was there. The master was a small kid. The master loved the boy very much. He had picked the flowers and bilwa leaves for the worship. Hriday had made all the other arrangements and he had gone away. There was nobody except the master when the actual worship began. At the close of it, Hriday came in. So when the puja was over, only then the master came in. Ram Babu, she says, Ramchandra Datta wrote a biography. He wrote one of the first biographies of Sri Ramakrishna, which is full of inaccuracies. It's not a very authentic book. That is why that is why Swami Shardanandji had to write a very authentic book, The Great Master, Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, which is also now been translated again as the Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play, because Leela Prasanga literally means Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play. So Ram Babu had written a book, a biography. He has mentioned in that book, which he of course wrote later, not when Sri Ramakrishna was alive, but afterwards, that the Shodashi Puja took place at Jairambati. So he, without confirming the facts, Holy Mother was alive at that time. He could have easily asked her, but he did not bother to even, he must have got the third hand or fourth hand information, not first hand information. So somebody told her the worship took place in Jairambati. And mother, now you see the reason and the logic she gives. He said, how could he write that? People in that part of the country are so gossipy. I mean, in the villages, mostly the rural areas, people used to gossip a lot. And they were already under the impression that Sri Ramakrishna was not a normal human being, because he would not live like a worldly person like them. He would not have a family, he would not have. So they used to always make fun or criticize the Holy Mother for having been married to a madman. So she says, if he had performed the worship in Jairambati, there would have been a big issue there because people in that part of the country are so gossipy. As it is, they used to comment, "To whom have you given the girl in marriage?" She used to tell her parents and mother especially that, "Whom have you given your girl in marriage? He is not a," I mean, they just expected the husband to be a worldly man with lot of wealth. So he says, a crazy, insane man. So his devotion, his samadhi and all, they thought it is the sign of a crazy or insane man. Now imagine what would have been the consequences of worshipping a woman there, even though it is his wife. So people would not have understood the significance and would have called Sri Ramakrishna fully crazy. So he says it is not possible that how did Ram Babu write in his book that the Shodashi Puja took place at Jairambati? It is not at all possible. After the worship, I continued to stay at Dakshineshwar for a year. Then I fell ill and returned to Jairambati. At Dakshineshwar, Shambhu Babu, Shambhunath Mallik, had arranged for my treatment by the physician Prasad Babu. Now she was suffering from perhaps malaria, which is supposed to attack the spleen near the stomach. So there was a very crude and very painful treatment for curing malaria in those days. They did not have proper medicines. So she says at Dakshineshwar, Shambhu Babu, Shambhunath Mallik, had arranged for my treatment by the physician Prasad Babu. So he was perhaps an traditional Ayurvedic physician. And the cure, because malaria was such a severe disease that which affected the spleen, so he was not, a recognized allopathic doctor. In those days, allopathy was not so well known. So most of the people used to be treated by the Ayurvedic physicians who were there. So she says she continued to stay at Dakshineshwar, then she fell ill and returned to Jairambati. So whenever they fell ill because of the mosquito bites in Dakshineshwar, very often the master also had fallen ill and many times. And whenever such things happened, they would go to Jairambati where the weather was much better, and they used to get treated and then come back to Dakshineshwar. So Sri Ramakrishna also did the same thing. And then he says, after the worship, she said, I stayed there for 1 year. Then because of this because of falling ill, she had to go. Were you at Dakshineshwar? Disciple asked, were you at Dakshineshwar when the master's mother passed away on 27th February 1875? So this is an event which took place after she went to Jairambati. Maybe in 73 she went, because she says after the worship I stayed for about 1 year. So if the worship took place in 72, then 73 she had gone to Dakshineshwar. So she continued to stay there in Jairambati. And she was in Dakshineshwar when Thakur's mother, who was living in the Nahabat with the Holy Mother, she was staying on the first floor, if you know. And Holy Mother was staying on the ground floor of the small room in Nahabat. So perhaps on 27th February, when the master's mother passed away, uh, Holy Mother was not there. So she says, no, I was ill at Jairambati then. I had returned after suffering for a year at Dakshineshwar for the treatment of my spleen trouble. I went to the Shiva temple at Badanganj where it was singed. Singed means it's a process where a very hot piece of iron, it's like cauterization. They take a very hot piece of burning iron and the patient has to be held by 4 people so that the patient doesn't shout. And exactly at the position where the spleen is, they try to touch the stomach with that spleen from externally with that hot piece of iron, and that burns the whole area. The skin also gets burned. So there was no other way of cure, and the spleen had to be burnt. And that was the only cure that was known to these doctors. So she went to the Shiva temple. Mostly such cures took place in some specific places where the doctors came and in front of the goddess or the Shiva temple or gods, where they believed that if you do it in front of certain temples which had miraculous powers, the malaria would get cured. So after I had visited Dakshineshwar twice or thrice, Captain Vishwanath Upadhyay gave sal wood. He had given some kind of sal wood. So after some Shambhu Babu, Shambhunath Malik, he constructed a cottage for me near the place where now Ramlal stays. So that is in Dakshineshwar. He made a separate cottage with the sal wood, which Captain Vishwanath Upadhyay was one admirer and officer in the Nepal government. And he used to, he donated a big piece of sal wood. With that, uh, the logs were kept and a cottage was being constructed for Holy Mother. So one day, one of the logs, the water of Ganga, there was a high tide, and naturally one log was simply taken away, carried away by the water of the Ganga because it was wood. They had kept it on the shore, on the bank of the Ganga. So one of the logs went away. So they fell short of log to construct that house. That is why Hriday scolded him. Hriday did not treat his uh, auntie or Holy Mother Sharda Devi with the respect she deserved because he had not understood her significance. He just thought his mama's wife is his auntie. So he scolded him saying, "You are ill starred. That means you are unlucky. Otherwise, why will this happen? Such a costly piece of wood." But the captain, immediately unmindful of the loss, sent another log to complete the cottage. He was not worried, but Hriday got angry on Holy Mother. I stayed in that cottage for some days. During the monsoon, once the master came to this cottage. It rained so heavily that he was unable to return to his room that night. He finished his meal there and laid himself down for the night. He said to me jokingly, "This is as though I have come home, like any other priest of Kali temple going home at night. You have to remember this." He jokingly said, "Today I look like those worldly priests who do puja in the temple and then go home at night to stay with the family." But Sri Krishna always stayed separately. So that day he was forced and he jokingly said, "You see, today mother has made me stay in your cottage." Otherwise, she used to stay in Nahabat, he used to stay in his own room. They never stayed with each other. But he jokingly said, "You see, today mother has, like any other priest, I have come uh, home at night. So I feel a bit odd." So an aged woman from Banaras at last persuaded me to come to the room in Nahabat. The master was then suffering from a severe attack of dysentery. I began attending on him. I searched in vain for this woman when I visited Banaras. So aged woman, he would not listen. He would stay in his own room, and the mother had to go a long way from the cottage, which was near the Nahabat, to take care of Sri Ramakrishna, to supply his diet and all those things. She could not serve him properly. So suddenly, from nowhere, an aged woman came from Banaras. Maybe it was Divine Mother herself who came in that form, because Sri Ramakrishna would get convinced, perhaps he had an intuition that this lady was none other than Holy Mother herself. So she came from Banaras, persuaded him to come to the room in Nahabat because his mother had passed away. So the rooms were empty there, and Holy Mother stayed in the cottage, and she used to treat him because he was suffering from a severe attack of dysentery. And Nahabat was very near this cottage. And I searched in vain for this woman when I visited Banaras. So much later, when Holy Mother, when Sri Ramakrishna had passed away, she tried to find out who was that woman who said she had come from Banaras, but she could not find. Perhaps she was uh, Divine Mother herself who had taken the human form to convince her. You know, Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother had so many such visions. On one occasion, a dark lady came and touched her head, and all the fever vanished. That was when they were coming for the first time to Dakshineshwar. So it is possible that the Divine Mother would have come, and but that's why she says, I was a bit curious that how can a strange woman come, old woman, and convince Sri Krishna, because he would not listen to her. He was comfortable with his own room. He did not want to leave. And Holy Mother knew that it was difficult. She could not serve properly, especially at night. Dakshineshwar is quite far. I mean, the Nahabat is quite far from the room in Dakshineshwar. So it was a bit difficult or inconvenient. So it is good that the the divine providence or the divine mother herself gave a hint that and Siram that he should live in the Nahabat nearby, and that is what happened. The next time my mother Lakshmi, myself, and some others went to Dakshineshwar. Her mother, that is Holy Mother's mother, who was still alive, Lakshmi, was the niece of Sri Ramakrishna, and others and some others went to Dakshineshwar. I made a votive offering of my hair and nails at Tarakeshwar for the recovery of my last ailment. As my brother Prasanna was with us, he first went to his rented house in Calcutta. It was perhaps in the month of March year 1881. So in 1881, later on, when before Holy Mother came, she came. They had to come via Tarkeshwar. There is a famous Shiva temple in Tarkeshwar where people go to pray. So she, as you remember, she had this long suffering of had a fever. So perhaps she went and the people used to offer some hair and nail with the hope of getting cured. And normally it happened. That's that faith healing. So her brother Prasanna was there. We first went to his rented house in Calcutta. So our brother Prasanna, who was staying in a rented house in Calcutta, they came first stayed there. It was perhaps in the month of March 1881. So next day we all went to Dakshineshwar. No sooner were we there, Hriday, for reasons best known to him, began saying, "Why have you come? Why have they come? What have they got to do here?" He was discourteous to them. My mother kept silent. Hriday hailed from the village Sihar, and my mother too was born and brought up there. So he utterly ignored my mother. She said, "Come back, come, let us go back." She was very upset because that was strange behavior of Hriday. That's why Sri Ramakrishna once warned him. He said, "If you make me angry, I will tolerate everything because you have served me well. But remember, if you irritate or if you uh, irritate or scold Holy Mother, then nobody, Brahma, Vishnu, or Mahesh, nobody can save you." And that is exactly what happened. Hriday had to leave the place. Anyway, that time, for reasons best known to him, perhaps he thought these women, they will come and stay here. It would be a big bother, lot of expenses. He was not a very good person. I mean, good in the sense he was not a very courteous person. He was very rough. And since her mother, Holy Mother's mother, was from Shihor, perhaps Hriday knew her because she belonged to her village. So he didn't even care for her and scolded. He utterly ignored and told them, "You go back." Or maybe he said, "Why have you come here?" So they all felt insulted. Mother kept quiet. That is the type of titiksha or the forbearance that mother showed. So she said, "Come, let us go back home. With whom shall I leave my daughter here?" For fear of Hriday, the master kept mum all through. We all left that very day. Ramlal called a boat for crossing the river. So, Holy Mother, perhaps there was some reason. And Sri Krishna was so dependent on Hriday that he had to keep quiet. And he perhaps, like a child, did not understand. And he, very for some strange reason, he also kept quiet. But Holy Mother was so mature and so uh, uh, so much of titiksha she had that she said, "Oh, it doesn't really matter. Let us go back. We have come." They stayed for a few days in her brother's rented house, and then because Prasanna also would not have kept them. So it was a burden, perhaps they thought, and they all went. At the time of departure, I mentally prayed. You see how the attitude of Holy Mother is. I mentally prayed to the Mother Kali. "Mother, I shall come here again only if you deign to bring me back." Hriday had to leave the Kali temple for worshipping the daughter of, uh, she worshipped the daughter of Trailokya, the son of Mathur Babu, by placing flowers at her feet in June. So soon as Sri Ramakrishna had warned Hriday, such a thing happened and Hriday had to go away. And that is how, uh, because Holy Mother did not pray for him to be removed, but she just in anxiety or she was anxious that I came here with the intention of serving the master, and if mother wills, I will come. So mother definitely willed, and she could come only because Hriday was uh, uh, Trailokya, the son of Mathur Babu, was very angry because without his permission, his small young girl, Hridaya, had worshipped doing Kumari Puja. Ramlal became the permanent priest of the Kali temple. So Ramlal, who was Sri Ramakrishna's nephew, he became the permanent priest of Kali temple when Hriday left and began to neglect the master. The master would be lying down somewhere in an ecstatic mood. His food would remain uneaten. It would finally become stale and dry up. So once Hriday left, who was serving, though he was very his nature was very irritable, but still he served the master and he took good care. At least he would see that he got his food regularly. But after Hriday went, Ramlal became so busy and he was not a very sensitive person. He would not even bother whether the food was served to Sri Ramakrishna or not. He also, you remember, Ramlal was the person who stopped the 7 rupees which Holy Mother used to get as a pension, say from Sri Ramakrishna's salary, which he stopped. He said, he told the temple authorities she doesn't need it. She's not in need of money anymore. After the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna, she found it very difficult to meet the ends meet when she went in Kamarpukur and Dakshineshwar. And to on top of that, this Ramlal, who did not understand the divine nature of Holy Mother, Sri Sharda Devi, he simply stopped that. So Ramlal said he was elated with the thought, how grand, I am now the priest of Mother Kali. So he was very happy that he was appointed in Hriday's place and he was so infatuated by the fact that he was appointed the pujari, and he began to spend all his time there and would not care. His food would remain uneaten, it would become stale and dry up. There was no one else at the Kali temple to look after him. So the master suffered a lot. He began to send word for me through people coming to those parts to rejoin him at Dakshineshwar. So you can imagine how much Sri Ramakrishna suffered at the hands of Hriday, and finally, though he served him, it was with lot of curses. So as Swamiji used to say, that every pound of every pound of bread which I have eaten, I had to pay with with a pound of flesh. I mean, he was strained to the extent, just for a few morsels of food, he had to struggle when he came to London. So he said, the Divine Mother has willed it in such a way that she takes 1 pound of flesh from me for every. She was just joking, but that was the fact. So Sri Ramakrishna also just quietly endured everything and started sending messages to Holy Mother, and finally she came and rejoined him in Dakshineshwar, and then she was fully at the service of the master. This was in June 1881 she went. Hriday went back because Mathur Babu's son-in-law, uh, Trailokya Babu, he dismissed him from service and appointed Ramlal as the priest, who was not willing to serve the master. Through Lakshman Pain of Kamarpukur, he sent the message, I am suffering here. After becoming a priest, Ramlal has joined the group of other priests of the temple. He does not now look after me much. You must come. Take a litter or a palanquin. I shall bear the cost, be it 10 rupees or 20. So Sri Ramakrishna even was so desperate. He was suffering so much that he asked the mother to come. And he said, whatever be the cost, you just come, take a palanquin if you can't travel. If you are sick, you come and stay here. Hearing this uh, earnest call, at last I came to Dakshineshwar in February or March 1882. And I was coming after a lapse of a year because Hriday had driven them back, asked them to go back to Jairambati. So it was a big struggle for her to come back. And then finally she decided to stay here permanently from 1882 till the master passed away. Master entered Mahasamadhi. So the disciple asks, where was the master when Rani Rasmani passed away? Then mother says he was at Dakshineshwar. Rani Rasmani had passed away, and that is why nobody took care of Sri Ramakrishna after the passing of Mathur Babu. Only Rani Rasmani and Mathur Babu knew about the divinity. The son-in-law Trailokya was not a big devotee, so he dismissed Hriday without even thinking what would happen to Thakur or his service. So the disciple is asking Holy Mother, where was the master when Rani Rasmani was passed away a few years earlier? He was at Dakshineshwar then. I heard from him, as also from some others, that at the time of Rasmani's death, suddenly the lamps in the Kali temple at Kalighat got blown out, and the mother herself, mother revealed herself to Rani Rasmani. She had a vision of the Divine Mother Kali, whose temple she had constructed. So the lights automatically blew off when she passed away. She had a vision, and then she also passed. Rani Rasmani passed away. All her relatives too passed away at the Kalighat residence, with the exception of Mathur Babu, who breathed his last at Jan Bazar. So they had two houses. One was Jan Bazar, another was near Kalighat. Uh, so near the Kalighat temple, they had another residence. So mother, I think Rani Rasmani preferred to stay in that house rather than stay at the house at Jan Bazar, which was a big house. But she passed away, and the lights of the Kali temple, there is one more Kali temple, not the Bhavatarani Kali temple at Dakshineshwar. The Kali temple at Kalighat got blown out, and Sri Ramakrishna seems to have noticed it and see the subtle body of Rasmani leaving, and then uh, he started crying. First he was just watching how the subtle body leaves the gross body, and holy and the Divine Mother Kali receives that soul and liberates the soul. So he had seen that vision, but after that he became very sad because he had lost someone who worshipped him as, not only worshipped him as God, but made all arrangements for the divine Leela at Dakshineshwar by building such a huge temple at and the temple complex. So that is the end of this conversation. Then on 16th October 1912, Wednesday, we come to another conversation which took place at Belur Math. So Holy Mother had visited Belur Math at that time. It was the time of Durga Puja at Belur Math. That day was the day of Bodhan. You know, Sri Ramakrishna had, Swami Vivekananda had started the formal Durga Puja worship in at Belur Math. So one of the Bel Pujas, 16th October 1912, when mother was still alive, she came there, and it was the day of the Bodhan, the sixth day when the mother is finally, not the sixth day, it is the day of Bodhan when the Divine Mother is invoked in in the pot, in the pot which is known as Ghata. So So it is normally held on the sixth lunar day. Sixth lunar day, when on the eve of her autumnal worship, the actual worship takes place on 3 succeeding days, and the image is immersed on the 10th lunar day. So that is the Navami, and the Dashami it is immersed in Vijayadashmi. So the Bodhan is on the sixth day, 3 days before that. So 3 plus 6 plus 3, 9, and the 10th day the image is worshipped. So that was the day of Bodhan, and Holy Mother was expected at the mutt in the evening. So he comes there. The disciple is asking the question at Belur Mutt, and she had come there. So I think this interview or the whole conversation or this description took place description is of the event that took place in Belur Mutt on the Bodhan day, on the sixth day of Navratri or Durga Puja. Evening was advancing, and yet there was no sign of her coming. Her means Holy Mother's coming. They wanted her to come before the Bodhan. At this delay, Baburam Maharaj, Swami Premananda became restless. At the gate, he saw that the plantain trees and the sacred pictures had not been arranged, and he said, "These things have not been done as yet. How can the mother come?" So he found that people were a bit lazy. They had not arranged the plantain trees and the sacred pictures where the mother would be invoked on the Bodhan day. So he says, if you have not arranged, that's why mother is not coming. So you do it quickly. So he admonished everybody, and the puja, the pitchers and all were arranged. No sooner was the Bodhan ceremony concluded than the mother's carriage reached Belur Math. When the carriage stopped, Golapma carefully helped the mother out of the carriage. The mother then looked around with beaming eyes and said, everything is arranged spick and span. It is as though we ourselves have come attired like the goddess Durga, which was a fact. It was she herself who manifested as the incarnation of Ma Durga, and that is why perhaps the timing was so right and everything was arranged before she came. The mother and the women devotees were accommodated in a bungalow north of the Mutt premises. The mother stayed in the southern room of that bungalow. On the day of the Mahaashtami, more than 300 devotees bowed down before the mother one by one. She was sitting on her cot facing west. 3 or 4 persons were initiated by her on that day. So that Navratri, on the Ashtami day, Mahaashtami, nearly 300 people came, and out of that, 4 people who were lucky, 3 or 4 people who were lucky, got Diksha from her in that bungalow north of the Mutt premises. So maybe it is Nilambar Babu's garden house, and they got Diksha in her own room. So they were very lucky to be initiated on the auspicious day of Mahaashtami. In the evening, during the uh, course of a conversation, the topic of Girish Babu's sister came up. She had suddenly passed away on the night of the Bodhan. So on the sixth day, Girish Babu's sister had passed away. The Holy Mother said, human being, today he is, tomorrow he is not. No one will accompany a person after his death. Only his actions, good and bad, follow him even after death. That means whatever we do, our actions, our lifestyle and the japa and the spiritual practices, whatever we do, these alone uh, accompany us after death. The body has to be left behind. The gross remains behind, only the subtle, whatever we have done in the subtle world, in the subtle plane of our existence, that alone remains. A boy had received from the master the sacred mantra in a dream. Now, this boy had come on that day. Mother has initiated 3 or 4 people. So, they were very lucky on that Ashtami day they were initiated. The boy had received from the master the sacred mantra in a dream. He had approached the mother for guidance, but referring to him, the mother said, the master took the Brahmin boy on his lap and gave him the mantra. So, in a vision, he had a dream that the Thakur himself is giving the mantra. So he had come because he thought it is a wonderful dream. Is it true? So that small Brahmin boy who had got Diksha, he came to mother for guidance. So disciple asked, did you give him a mantra again? No, I told him, you are favored by the grace of the Lord himself. You will attain, uh, you will attain everything, mukti, moksha, by the repetition of that mantra. I did not even ask him what the mantra was. I merely explained to him the technique of repetition of the holy mantra which he had got in a dream. Uh, and because he said that he got a mantra in the dream, Thakur himself made him sit on his lap, and in the dream, of course, and in a subtle way gave the mantra. On the day of the Vijayadashmi, when the image was being taken away on a boat for immersion in the Ganga, Dr. Kanjilal had danced, gesticulated, and made faces at the image like a child. On Vijayadashmi day, there is a tradition that people just dance and sing and jump and behave like children. Even the grown up people, old grown up. Dr. Kanjilal was a very senior doctor. So even he had danced with the younger generation. Normally people are shy, but that day on Vijayadashmi, before she is immersed in the water, there is a event where all the people make faces at Holy Mother like children, like small children, and even the older people participate in that. So everybody did, and all were roaring with laughter, seeing this senior doctor Kanjilal doing this. One brahmacharin who held puritanical views was much annoyed at those gestures and postures. There are some people who do not take, who do not appreciate the sporting spirit with which a devotee of the Lord approaches the mother as a child. So people think it is childish. You see, that is the problem with most of us, that we think we are mature. We want to be seen as mature people. If some element of childlikeness, not childishness, childlikeness comes, we think a person is immature. We do not understand that simplicity is a very rare thing. Only people who have done lot of tapasya in their previous life, according to Sri Ramakrishna, is born as a guileless person. So even if he grows up, like Dr. Kanjilal was very devoted to the master and the mother, he felt as if he was a child. So that feeling comes only to genuine devotees and people who don't bother about society. So the one brahmachari was not perhaps very spiritual. He held such views that, oh, this is a stupid ritual, we should not do that. Why they are disturbing the mood of the worship? But that is part of the worship. So the Holy Mother was watching the whole scene from her residence and enjoying it. She was enjoying it, and this brahmachari was upset. He thought, such a old person is dancing and making faces like a young child. He is too stupid or he is too immature. Later, I told the mother about the critical reaction of the brahmachari. So Arupananda also felt bad that the brahmachari stopped Dr. Kanjilal and said, don't do all this drama here and make gestures in front of mother. Then Holy Mother had seen and enjoyed it, and then she said, no, 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 it is perfectly all right. The goddess has to be entertained in every way, through music, through fun and frolic. So, when we consider the Divine Mother as our own, we cannot but, in a high spiritual mood, people normally get the feeling that they are insignificant. That is humility. And the humility makes their nature like that of a small child, 5-year-old child. And Sri Ramakrishna used to say, unless one becomes like a small 5-year-old child, he cannot pass through. I mean, as Jesus said, one cannot pass through to the gates of heaven unless you become like a child. So Sri Ramakrishna also used to say that one cannot have God realized, one cannot have the vision of God unless one is simple and guileless like a small child. So that is what Holy Mother said. No, no, no. What is wrong? Why should the brahmachari be upset? Because Dr. Kanjilal, that is the part of the tradition that reminds us that please don't take this life very seriously. One should be sporting, take things lightly, take it as a circus. As Swamiji used to say, we are in a circus and we are like clowns tumbling, though it may look a little odd. But Sri Ramakrishna or Swami Vivekananda said something very significant. What he actually meant was, if we take this life very seriously, then it is very difficult to bear the problems, to encounter the problems that we face. Sometimes it helps to be light-hearted, to just ignore the problems that we have. That is one way of handling the problems. I'm not saying that it is easy, but that is what all these rituals tell us, that at least on this day, we remember that we are children of the Divine Mother, and all that we see, why should we be so serious? Because somebody says something, because somebody says, uh, judges us wrongly, we should not care. Others' opinion of us doesn't really matter. That's what Kanjilal was feeling. He was feeling that he was a divine child of the mother, and he was spontaneously expressing that divine feeling, and that made him look like a child. Whereas the brahmachari, who was not perhaps who could not understand the deep significance of the master's teachings or true spirituality, he thought it was a sign of maturity. And like all the other worldly people who think they are very wise, that they are taking the right decisions in life, they are the only people who have a uh, mature mind, not knowing that their worldliness itself is a sign of immaturity from the spiritual point of view. So, how can a person who takes this life seriously and becomes a slave of his own mind, You see, when you take life seriously, when you're reactive, when one's reactive mind becomes active, in the sense we don't associate ourselves with the buddhi. Only when our chitta takes the form of our buddhi, when we go to a higher plane, then it is possible to be spontaneous, to be joyful, to be blissful like a child. Otherwise, every time the reactive mind acts, reactive mind is used in encountering the world, we think we are mature and we are handling things in a very clever way. But as Sri Ramakrishna said, the crow thinks he is very clever, but his mind is on the filth, the kachara, the filth that is lying in the gutters. So that is what Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that these worldly people, in the name of maturity, they say that you should do that, you should do this, you should follow this, you should follow that. How do they know what is God's will? Why do they insist on having standard, so-called certain, why do they establish certain standards that you have to do this to be happy, you have to earn money, you have to do all these things, even necessary, you have to cheat. And these are the people who think that it is maturity to earn money by hook or crook. So that is what makes people think that if they are worldly wise and they are very chalak or shrewd, they are more mature. But far from it, Sri Ramakrishna never liked this attitude, and Holy Mother very clearly says that brahmachari is wrong. He does not understand. It is perfectly all right. The goddess has to be entertained, and we have to become like small children. Only then the mother accepts us. That humility, that childlikeness is an essential part of spiritual life. The mother returned to the Udbodhan on the next day, and after staying for a few days there, she left for Banaras. So this incident took place in Belur Math in 1912. You should remember that in 1910, finally mother had her own house, which was also known as Mayer Badi. And though she used to spend her time before 1910, after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna, on various pilgrimages with Gauri Ma and all the other women devotees. And Swami Yogananda also accompanied them on some such tours to Brindavan. That is just because she did not have a place to stay, and it was very difficult to stay in Jairambati or Kamarpukur, which she did for some time. There was hardly anything to eat. She was suffering. So some of the women devotees who had some contacts, and they knew that there were some places in Banaras, Brindavan, where which belonged to the Balram Babu and other people, other devotees of the master, where they could stay, and it was easy to get food in such places of pilgrimage. One could easily beg or go to the chhatras and get their quota of food. A lot of free feeding would take place. So perhaps that was one of the reasons that they decided to go on pilgrimage. And mother undertook that pilgrimage even at an advanced stage with so much of difficulty, just because she did not have a house. And Swami Shardananda, who built this Mayarbadi by taking a loan, he said enough is enough. Though he did not have money, being a sannyasin, and seeing that none of the devotees, the so-called devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, were not in a position. Some of them were really not financially rich, but some of them were, but they avoided to come after the passing away of the master. Even when he was in Kashipur, some of the devotees. That is why they say the great master, or the Leela Prasang says that the final days, the last 6 months in Kashipur was a test, that when Sri Ramakrishna really needed the help, there were only a few, and those were the gems. Those were the people whom he gave his entire thing, the direct disciples and some of the householder disciples who, in spite of financial difficulties, like Girish Ghosh, he was not a very rich devotee, but somehow he managed to send some money. They collected subscription. So perhaps Divine Mother wanted to test who are the genuine devotees and who are the people who come to help Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. So there were a few very close devotees like Suren Mitra who paid the rent, and there were some other very good devotees who looked after the Holy Mother, and even when Sri Ramakrishna was alive, they looked after all the expenses. So that is the reason why Swami Shardanandji thought that till I establish a place, which he did in 1910. So mother lived there for nearly 10 years. Of course, on several occasions she went to different parts of India on pilgrimage and also went to Jairambati Kamarpukur to stay. But Udbodhan, at least she had a home where she could stay. That is why it is known as Mayarbadi. So she used to return to Udbodhan now and then, and after spending a few days, she left for Banaras in 1912. So the next conversation, which we will discuss in the next alternate Saturday, next Saturday is of course uh, the Gita class. So on the Saturday after that, we will be discussing about Holy Mother's stay in Banaras and the incidents that took place. So there were some reminiscences. Perhaps Ras Bihari Maharaj was also part of the group which went there, and Holy Mother, after attending Durga Puja, she went to Udbodhan, and on the next day, after staying there, on the next day she went to Udbodhan and staying there for a few days, she left for Banaras. Perhaps Ras Bihari Maharaj also accompanied the Holy Mother. That's why we are lucky to have those conversations which took place in Banaras. Some very important conversations which took place there about the about this holy place of Banaras. We will discuss in the next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. If there are some questions, you can now ask. If there are. You can type in chat or you can even ask. I am allowing everybody to unmute themselves. So there is a question: how does engaging with the higher mind makes one more simple? Higher mind means buddhi. Whenever you love the subtle, whenever your ambition, your desire to collect gross things, when you leave the reactive mind, it is the reactive mind which makes us complex, makes us a complicated person. We have strong likes, we have strong dislikes, we hate some people, we love some people. There's so much of hatred when we live on the reactive mind plane. So engaging with the higher mind or buddhi makes you see clearly. It makes you observe everything clearly and not be judgmental about everything. We cease to pass judgment. We see things in a very clear, in a rational way, and we don't bother. We don't allow the reactive mind to dominate and react in such a way that we make ourselves miserable. So, the more you engage with the higher mind, the more uncomplicated or simple you become. It's the simple answer. To become uncomplicated, you have to awaken the buddhi within. You have to have a faith in the Lord who is sitting inside you, who is shining. And when you repeat the Namaha mantra, the end of the mantra which is Namaha, that means I worship you. It is not the me or my ego that is important. It is you who are everything. So engaging with the higher mind means awakening the buddhi, and that happens only by the grace of the Lord and by constant sadhana. So constant sadhana is the only way which makes us simple and see things in a proper perspective. The two types of vrittis which I mentioned, the viparyaya vritti, the vikalpa vrittis, which are characteristics of the reactive mind, they become less and less, and we see things clearly, very clearly. We see the divine spirit behind the gross things. We are not so much upset by the ups and downs of the gross. So that requires buddhi, and that requires some simplicity. For example, a mind which is, take for example a child. he does not see evil outside because he has not yet developed the reactive mind. If somebody says something, that is because of ignorance, it's not because of, but one has to get the mind like a child, not childish mind. Sri Ramakrishna says one mind becomes simple and childlike. So this childlike mind is a characteristic of a person who is engaging, whose chitta has taken the form of the buddhi, because he knows the Lord decides everything and he knows what is best for us. But if we connect yourself with a reactive mind, then all the actions and reactions of people around you, they disturb your mind and cause a lot of pain. The vrittis are klishta, they are full of, they are pain bearing vrittis. That is how you avoid. Now there is one more question. Why is it common to see, for example, mother was facing the west? Cardinal points are referred many times. Why this in both the gospels? Yes, that is the idea that the worshipper, the person who worships, always faces the east. It's a tradition. I don't know the scientific reason for that. We need not bother. It's a part of a culture which has come down for centuries. So they say, some people say it is because of the motion of the earth and all those things, the gravitational force and all those things. But we don't have to go. What really matters is this has been a tradition that the worshipper faces the east and naturally the deity faces the west. So when Sri Ramakrishna was worshipping Holy Mother as goddess herself, naturally he worshipped her, gave the fruit of his sadhana, japamala, everything at the feet of Holy Mother, and invoked that mother, the divine mother of the universe in her physical frame. So naturally she took the place of the deity and she faced the west. So you don't have to bother and uh, uh, you don't have to bother about this west and east. Just know it is a tradition, and what Sri Ramakrishna did was right. He just followed the tradition, and that is how every worshipper sits in India. Either he faces north or faces east or he faces north. So the deity will either face south or the deity will face the west. That is the answer. Now, why did Thakur worship Ma? Okay. Sri Ramakrishna worshipped Ma with, there were several reasons, which if you read the life of Holy Mother, written by Swami Gambhirananda or Sri Sharda Devi, the divine play, there it has been clearly mentioned that one main function of the Sri Ramakrishna incarnation was to leave Holy Mother behind. For nearly 34 years, she had predicted that she would take up the spiritual cause and spread spirituality and initiate disciples. So Sri Ramakrishna knew that, and the Holy Mother's age was also much less than Sri Ramakrishna. She was 5 years old when she married Sri Ramakrishna, who was 23 at that time. So this 5-year-old girl now had become, when Sri Ramakrishna passed away in 1886, she was still young enough and she could live for another 34 years. So he wanted the fruits of his japa, as he said, today I have given you everything. He offered the fruits of his long tapasya, the fruits of his long spiritual austerities at the feet of the mother who went into samadhi. And she, using that power, blessed thousands and thousands of people with initiation and other spiritual advice. So that is the reason, uh, uh, that is the answer. That is a partial answer. Of course, there are many reasons. And another reason was that, which Swamiji later said, that Holy Mother will be at the center and there will be a revival of the motherhood of God. God has been so far worshipped as the father in most of the Semitic religions. It's only in India that God as mother has been given such a prominent place. But because of the influence of foreign invasions, we neglected the motherhood of God, and as a result, it reflected our attitude towards women in the social field, also in the socio-economic field. Women were treated very badly. They were treated as second grade citizens. That is the influence of some of the Semitic religions which invaded India, which came to India and brought their customs and rituals. Because for those religions, God is the father. God as the mother is not very important. So that is another reason why Sri Ramakrishna worshipped his own wife. That is according to Swamiji. So Swamiji said he worshipped his own wife just to invoke the divine in her so that she can carry out the main mission for which she had come. And she outlived Sri Ramakrishna by 34 years to carry on that vital mission. Most of the previous incarnations, if you find, they their spouses or their Sahadharmini preceded. I mean, their Mahasamadhi was Sita passed away when Rama was alive. Radha and all the different uh, Shaktis of the incarnation, they left this earth or left this divine Leela before the master or before their husband or the Lord left. So this was an exception. Here the Lord said, I have done very little, you have to do more. That is why in our order we consider that Holy Mother's role, especially the Shodashi Puja, was a symbolic, not only symbolic, was a real invocation of the Divine Mother in her, which enabled her to glorify the aspect of motherhood of God and be a mother of all. So she is the mother of all, not just a biological mother, but the mother of all. So in the gross, in the subtle, in the causal level, without the grace of mother, it is not possible to get the grace of the Lord. Of without Shakti's grace, Shiva will not be. Uh, we will not be. That is, there is a saying that without Shakti's power or Shakti's grace, we cannot attain to Shiva. So that is the reason. Okay. And the last question is, you mentioned about the devotees being having attitude of child in front of Ma Durga. If Sri Ramakrishna is our Ishta, what type of relationship should we try and develop with Thakur? Should it be one of a servant to the master or father to a child or some other relationship? It is always better to have the relationship of a child, and Siram considers Sri Ramakrishna both as the mother and father. He is beyond all gender. These incarnations, they take up the human form. They take up the human form in a particular biological body, either as a man or a woman. But it is not very important. When Sri Ramakrishna died, Holy Mother said, when Sri Ramakrishna gave up his body, he said, Ma Kali, where have you gone? So she saw the Ma Kali in that. So if you consider Sri Ramakrishna both as the mother, there is a beautiful song in Bengali, Natha Tumi Sarvasva Amar, Pranadhar Saratsar, Nahi Tuma Bine Kevo Tribhuvane, Bolibar Apna. There is nobody in this universe whom I can call my own. So that is the song. And then Danda Data Pita Sneha Mai Mata. There is one verse which says, you are the disciplinary father. A father is supposed to discipline the child. Whereas mother is Snehamai. She is kind. She can assume the form of a compassionate incarnation of like mother. She is really like the mother. In a biological, mother is normally supposed to be more kinder than the father. So Danda Data Pita, you are my father who disciplines me. So there's nothing wrong in having the attitude. It's not that you have to be childlike only before the mother, even before the father. The child is a child. So the attitude of a child, the Santan Bhava, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, is not just before Ma Durga only. So whether it is Ma Durga or whether it is Shiva, you can always think of Sri Ramakrishna as the father and you are the child, or you can also consider Sri Ramakrishna as your mother, or Holy Mother and Sri Ramakrishna are not different. So I take your leave now. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.